The MCU is now bigger than it's ever been before. And just like there are countless heroes, well, there are just as many villains to battle it out against them. Today, we're going to take a look at all these villains, specifically how they would do in a fight, and rank them all from weakest to the most powerful. So let's get to it. Zemo isn't the worst villain, don't get me wrong, but he might be the weakest villain here. He's brilliant, a strategic mastermind, one of the few villains out there who actually succeeded in their goals. He tore down the Avengers. And one of the things that makes him great, what puts him at the bottom of the list, is that he's just a man, he's just a dude. A soldier and a fighter, sure, but still just a guy. I really don't know what I think about Young Rugg. He's a Kree commander, a leader of an elite spec ops group, and you can argue that being a Kree, well, he might actually be superhuman. On top of that, he's got some great tech. He was even able to hold his own in a fight against a depowered Captain Marvel. But in an actual fight, he was one shot. Not super impressive. Echo might be the most forgettable villain on this list, which is surprising. She got her own TV show. She's a skilled fighter, she's able to survive fights against Daredevil and Hawkeye, but it really is just her surviving the fight standing. They're still beating up on her, and if Hawkeye is regularly able to beat you, well, you're only going to get so high on the villains list. Kingpin is definitely an intimidating man, a man who you don't want to get on his bad side. He tends to stay behind the scenes, running his criminal empire while masquerading as just simply a powerful businessman. But Fisk also has no problem with throwing some hands. He's massive. Along with that build comes a whole lot of strength and power. While he might not have a ton of formal fight training, he's got no problem throwing down with Daredevil, or Punisher, or Bullseye, and overpowering all of them. Red Skull is technically the first super soldier. He was before Captain America and is an imperfect version of the serum. Just don't tell him that. He thinks the red face looks good. And honestly, he just never really impressed me much. In theory, he could be just as powerful as other super soldiers out there, even Captain America himself. But what did Red Skull ever really do? Get beat by the weakest version of Cap, then turn into a floating ghost? Yeah, that's about it. Karli Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers are super soldiers. They're able to hold their own against the likes of Falcon and Winter Soldier, but you can't really say they're the strongest super soldiers out of the bunch. They're not the best fighters, they're not the strongest or the most powerful, and when other super soldiers really go all out, well, the Flag Smashers never really stand that much of a chance. After surviving an attempted assassination but being gravely injured, Taskmaster was experimented on by the Red Room. In the process, implanted with a microchip that allowed her to have photographic reflexes. So by viewing how another person fights, Taskmaster is able to perfectly replicate his or her fighting style and movements, including the likes of Captain America, Black Widow, Spider-Man, and Winter Soldier. She's an excellent fighter and assassin, and a very, very hard woman to beat, because fighting Taskmaster is basically like fighting the best version of yourself. I really don't want to put MODOK too high on this list, just because look at him. But he does have a doomsday chair, he does have all sorts of weapons, and rockets and chainsaws and everything like that, but still, just look at him. Not all that intimidating. Arthur Harrow is the avatar of Ammit, and because of that, well, he's got the power and ability to extract someone's life force, judging them with the staff of Ammit, and if they're found guilty or evil, then they're judged, and their soul is absorbed. He's not much of a fighter, but he is powerful enough to fight against Moon Knight, as they were both powered up by their respective gods. Bucky Barnes was the second successful attempt at creating a super soldier, as he was injected with a serum similar to Captain America's while he's being held hostage by Hydra in the 1940s. It was this serum that allowed him to survive the fall off the train, allowed him to become the Winter Soldier, allowed him to fight against the likes of Captain America and Black Panther. The only thing is, his serum wasn't strong enough to allow him to save his arm. But hey, you know what? A vibranium arm might be even better in the grand scheme of things. Vulture was Spider-Man's first true villain, an old man flying around with some super advanced stolen tech. His flying suit gives him enough physical power to survive airplane crashes and fight alongside Spider-Man, on top of just allowing him to fly at some super fast speeds. And I guess because Vulture is here, we could technically include Morbius on this list, but we're not really going to go there. Dr. Kurt Connors started out as a hopeful scientist trying to cure diseases and sickness, but it ended with him being transformed into a massive, raging reptile. He's strong enough to overpower Spider-Man, overpower several Spider-Men actually. He's able to deal some serious injuries with his razor-sharp claws. On top of that, well, Lizard is a very, very hard monster to put down, mostly because he's got a healing factor, allows him to regrow limbs in an instant. Titania is basically a real-life villain. She's a social media influencer and entrepreneur, and is a big narcissist who thinks the world revolves around her. But she's also got superhuman powers, including enough strength and durability to go toe-to-toe with She-Hulk, although not a whole lot of actual skill or fighting ability to back it up. Obadiah Stane started out as a father figure for Tony Stark, but when Tony survived being trapped in that cave and became Iron Man, well, Stane wasn't too happy with that, so he himself became the Ironmonger. It's a big and massive suit of armor that's actually able to fight against and overpower Iron Man during their fight. However, that was definitely the weakest version of Iron Man we've seen, so we can't really scale Ironmonger to everything Tony's ever done. Dr. Octopus is a brilliant nuclear physicist, but he did a very dumb thing by accidentally bonding 4 indestructible metal arms to his body. Those arms then took over his mind, causing him to go a little crazy and becoming Doc Ock. He's an absolute menace with those arms, able to fight against all different Spider-Men, throw them around with ease. But at the end of the day, Otto isn't really a villain. He'll always try and make amends for his actions. Ivan Vanko is just one of the many people who were screwed over by the Stark family, but he decided to do something about it, becoming Whiplash. His whips are awesome, and Vanko honestly had a lot of potential as a powerful villain, especially when he upgraded and built himself a suit of armor to go along with the whip. Too bad that Tony and Rhodey had learned and mastered an insta-kill move, and that was enough to take Whiplash down. Depending on how much time he's got and how complicated an illusion he can create, you can argue that Mysterio deserves to be higher up on this list. He's a genius, a master con artist. He's able to create complex enough illusions to trick both Spider-Man and Nick Fury, and really the entire world. So yeah, give Mysterio enough time and resources, you can argue he can trick just about anyone. Aldrich Killian was the founder of AIM, as well as the guy who really took Extremis to the next level, even enhancing himself to become a supervillain. He was able to fight against Tony Stark and all his many different Iron Man armors. He could instantly heal from a lot of attacks. He's even got flame powers and fire breath. Killian was a very hard man to beat. After being caught up in a quantum accident, Ava Starr gained the powers to become intangible and phase through objects. She began to work for S.H.I.E.L.D. as a stealth operative for top secret missions, and along the way, mastered her powers and became a really skilled and deadly fighter. Ghost could even go so far as to phase herself through someone's body, pretty much instantly killing them. Darren Cross technically makes the list twice here, and Yellowjacket was definitely more powerful and impressive than MODOK. He was able to change and manipulate his size just like Ant-Man. He could fly around, he could shoot out energy blasts. Yellowjacket was definitely a threat in a fight. Eric Killmonger is one of the best villains out there, and the king of Wakanda for a little while, which means he gets access to all the great stuff that comes along with being a Black Panther. He too took the heart-shaped herb, gained the powers of the Black Panther, and all the strength and abilities of a super soldier. And Killmonger got access to Wakandan tech too, all sorts of vibranium tech and gadgets, and he's a lethal and deadly fighter. He's got plenty of experience killing anyone standing in his way. Norman Osborn was the CEO of Oscorp, but after experimenting on himself with an enhancement serum, well, he became the Green Goblin, and that caused him to go absolutely insane in the process. He's strong enough to straight up rival, nearly overpower Spider-Man. He's tough enough and crazy enough to just laugh off Spider-Man's punches, and Green Goblin's got all sorts of tech and powers too, like pumpkin bombs that can straight up disintegrate people, and a glider to allow him to fly around. The High Evolutionary is arguably the darkest and most evil villain out there in the MCU, a truly despicable monster as he seeks to build his own version of utopia. He's a brilliant scientist, able to create his own species of life. He definitely upgraded himself and his own body along the way. He was able to fight against all the Guardians with his gravity manipulation powers, while he can actually instantly take out people with just one move. Wen-Wu was a legendary and mythical figure, rising to power throughout history after finding the incredibly powerful 10 rings. He used the rings to conquer entire empires, establishing himself as the greatest warlord in the world's history. The 10 rings grant him superhuman strength, speed, and durability, but more than that, well, the rings themselves are some of the greatest weapons in the universe, allowing him to fight on par with just about anyone. And as if that wasn't enough, Wen-Wu is also one of the most skilled fighters on Earth, with near millennia of experience. Flint Marko was a crook who fell into a super collider, gaining the ability to control sand and become a gigantic sand monster in the process. He's incredibly strong and tough, literally being a sand monster, and he can control the sand however he wants, even becoming a living, breathing sand storm. Max Dillon was a former electrical engineer at Oscorp, who gained the ability to manipulate electricity after falling into a batch of electric eels, turning Dillon into a living electric generator. Electro is living, breathing electricity, allowing him to fly around, transform into electricity, manipulate electricity however he wants. He's a very, very hard guy to beat, considering that you're fighting a literal lightning bolt. Emil Blonsky, with the help of Thunderbolt Ross, was the government's solution to match the destruction of the Hulk. Ross explained the government had been trying to recreate Erskine's serum since the day it was proven a success, and so when Soldier Blonsky was given the opportunity to test one of these variants, he didn't hesitate to sign up. Unfortunately, this variation of the serum, along with the blood from Bruce Banner, resulted in the gruesome transformation of Blonsky into what we now know as the Abomination. But nowadays, well, Abomination is trying to prove that he's really so much more than a monster. Namor is the first mutant and the king of his underwater nation. Namor has the power to breathe on land and under the water, and as Namor is exposed to water, well, the stronger and stronger he gets, to the point where Namor could arguably rival the Hulk. He's incredibly strong, tough, he can fly around with his little feet wings. Namor is even able to talk to fish. On top of that, Namor is a dangerous and formidable fighter, able to dominate against the new Black Panther, before she pulled out some fancy tech. Caecilius is a former master of the mystic arts, before losing his way becoming a zealot for Dormammu, intent on bringing the Dark Dimension to Earth. He's a brilliant sorcerer, and his power only got even more when he started tapping into Dark Dimension magic. It gives Caecilius pretty much complete control over the Mirror Dimension. He can control space-time shards during his fights, and Caecilius actually reached immortality, just at a horrifying cost. Dar-Benn was an accuser for the Kree Empire, but after discovering her own quantum bands, well, Dar-Benn somehow became one of the most powerful villains in the universe, able to fight against Ms. Marvel, Photon, and even Captain Marvel herself. She's able to manipulate energy in all sorts of different ways. When she gained 2 quantum bands, Dar-Benn was even able to open up a hole in the multiverse, although it did kill her in the process. Crew was the leader of the Deviants, hunting down the Eternals in a quest for ultimate power. Each Eternal he killed, well, he gained their powers and became more evolved and sophisticated in the process. But he ultimately got a little too cocky with it, giving Thena the opportunity to cut him into little pieces. Malekith is the cruel leader of the Dark Elves, a race of beings that thrived in the primordial darkness before the Big Bang. And Malekith's goal was to return the universe back to that darkness. Wielding an Infinity Stone, Malekith was strong and tough enough to fight against Thor, blocking his attacks, sending him flying with his punches. On top of that, by using the Reality Stone, well, Malekith could instantly heal from attacks, and even showed the ability to kind of manipulate reality itself. Agatha Harkness was a witch from Salem, Massachusetts, who turned on her own coven, using dark magic against them. She went on for centuries, stealing other witches' powers and magical potential, proving herself to be a master of magic and the dark arts, even obtaining the Darkhold. Of course, then she tried to steal the powers from the Scarlet Witch, and this didn't turn out too well for her. But even without her immense power, well, Agatha has still proven herself to be an extremely formidable and deadly witch. Magneto is Professor X's best friend, but the two men couldn't be more different when it came to mutants' relationship with humanity. He's the master of magnetism and can control everything on the electromagnetic spectrum, but usually this resorts to manipulating metal any way that he wants. And Magneto knows just exactly how to use his powers too, ranging from pulling all the metal out of a person's blood to even shifting the Earth's magnetic poles, causing destruction all around the world. The Dweller in Darkness was the leader of the Soul Eaters, creatures with the ability to absorb and feed on souls. And since he's their leader, well, the Dweller in Darkness is the most powerful out of the bunch. He's massive, incredibly strong and powerful. The more souls he absorbed, well, the more and more powerful that the Dweller became, until Shang-Chi stopped him with the 10 rings. Cassandra Nova is the twin sister of Charles Xavier that he never knew he had. She's the ruler of the Void, and she's one of the most intimidating rulers you'll ever see. Her powers are telepathy and telekinesis, and she is absolutely ruthless with them. She'll tear people apart, literally, then reach into their mind and rip out all their deepest secrets. Again, literally. Basically, you really don't want to cross her unless you got a healing factor on your side. Icarus is the leader and most powerful member of the Eternals. He's a cosmically powerful super robot, basically functioned like Superman in the MCU, except that he kinda went evil at the very end. He's the most powerful Eternal out there. He's a country-level threat. He's basically immortal. He can literally fly faster than the speed of light. Probably would have been much higher on this list if he hadn't gotten a guilty conscience and flown headfirst into the sun, because only one showing is only going to get you so high here. Now yes, Kang the Conqueror was defeated by a whole bunch of ants. You can argue that should actually eliminate him from this list altogether. At the very least, not put him up so high. But he was a bit depowered there, and is claimed to have killed countless different versions of the Avengers, including Thor's, managed to destroy entire worlds and timelines. So if all of that is true, well then this spot is probably a bit of an undersell. So just decided to meet in the middle, and that's how Kang ended up in this spot here. Ultron is an AI that was originally designed to be a force for peace, before Ultron decided that the best way to make a peaceful world is to literally kill every single person on the planet. He built a robot body that made him an Avengers level threat, able to fight against Iron Man or Thor. But outside of that, well, you gotta remember Ultron is an AI at his core. He can control robot armies all over the planet, all at once, and Ultron is nearly impossible to beat. Considering that, like we said, well, he's an AI. Apocalypse is the first mutant, the ancestor of all mutant kind, and it's fitting that he's also one of the most powerful mutants too. And not just that, but he has just about every power you could possibly want. He's got telepathy, telekinesis, he can create portals and force fields at will, he can manipulate all matter around him. He's incredibly superhumanly strong, fast, and tough, to the point where he might actually just be straight up immortal. As if all that wasn't enough, Apocalypse also has the ability to bestow powers upon others, making them extremely powerful as well. Amit was a notorious Aeneid who cast judgment on the impure and evil by devouring their souls. But Amit decided to start punishing people before they could actually commit an evil act, which led to her being imprisoned by Khonshu. But when Amit broke out, well, she really showed just how powerful she was, absorbing countless souls, having a massive fight with Khonshu. Gore, nicknamed the God Butcher, is an alien who was once a devout follower of his religion, but turned to violence when the gods ignored him, which led his daughter Love to die. From there, he decided to exterminate all the gods. He was able to fight evenly against Thor and beat him. It's really just how much every other god feared him. Thor believed that they needed to raise up an army of all the most powerful gods in the universe in order to even have a shot at beating him. The Asgardian goddess of death and Odin's firstborn, Hela was banished for her bloodlust. When she eventually managed to make her way back, well, she came back with a vengeance. Hela has a mystical connection to Asgard, meaning that she's more powerful there than anywhere else. So her feats might be a little skewed, but she was able to dominate in her fight against Thor every single time. Made it look easy. And it's not like she was not powerful anywhere else. She literally shattered Mjolnir in the palm of her hand while still on the earth. Thanos. For a good long while, he stood on top of the MCU as the most powerful being there is. Mostly because he had the Infinity Gauntlet and no one else did. And since then, a few people have got their hands on the Infinity Stones too. They've actually shown off better feats with it. But never forget that Thanos was the OG. Never forget that he managed to kill literally half of the entire universe too. He's a warlord, a genocidal maniac, and still one of the biggest powerhouses to date. Even outside of the gauntlet, well, Thanos is still able to absolutely wipe the floor with the whole Avengers roster. So yeah, don't sleep on this guy. It kinda took a while for Wanda Maximoff to officially become the Scarlet Witch, but when she did, well, she really cemented her place as a powerhouse in the MCU. She's one of the most powerful magic users we've ever seen, to the point where she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. Doctor Strange said he had no way to defeat her, and she could take on all the sorcerers of Earth at once. And she's just as powerful against normal heroes too. She easily soloed the Illuminati, which included an alternate version of Captain Marvel. Scarlet Witch was suggested to be a multiversal threat. She really lived up to the hype. Surtur has always been doom. For countless millennia, it was told that he would bring about Ragnarok, destroying Asgard and completely consuming the realm. Odin and the Asgardians did everything they could to stop that, but they couldn't stand up against destiny for forever. Surtur eventually made his way to Asgard and destroyed everything, completely wiping out the entire realm. Ego is both a celestial and a literal living planet. You can be sure he's insanely powerful. I mean, his entire plan is to span out across the entire galaxy and bring it all under his control by literally becoming one with the galaxy. He technically already had half of the power to do it inside him already. So if he had just set his sights on, say, becoming one with half the galaxy, well, he could have done it all by himself. Told you, he was powerful. The Phoenix Force is an incredibly powerful cosmic entity, capable of manipulating all the matter and energy in the universe. It took the mutant Jean Grey as its host, greatly increasing her power, but at the same time, causing her to go kinda just a little bit insane. The Phoenix is able to manipulate all energy, destroy and regenerate anything in its path, and even have control and manipulate life itself, making it one of the most powerful cosmic beings out there. Dormammu is a being older than time itself, existing outside of our concept of reality as the ruler of the dark dimension. He's got absolute and total control over the dark dimension, which is just an amalgamation of all the countless universes that Dormammu has consumed in the past and brought into his realm. And his plan is to conquer and absorb all the infinite universes throughout the multiverse, bringing it all into the dark dimension. Of course, for as powerful as he is, he does have one massive Achilles heel. If you're able to control time, well, then you can beat him. Ereshkigal the Judge is the Prime Celestial, the one responsible for causing the Big Bang, creating the universe, and bringing light to the universe. Beings who all came before the very dawn of creation, and the most powerful of all of them, being their leader. The dude can literally create universes. He's insanely powerful. Death is straight up a cosmic entity, the embodiment of death and decay of all living things, as well as being the original Green Witch. As Death, she wields immense magical power, drawing from the mystical powers of the universe itself, and is the first user of earth magic as the Green Witch. Then of course, as Death, well, she has unlimited power over death itself and everything that goes along with it. In this universe, Ultron succeeded in his mission to beat the Avengers. And he didn't stop there. He was quickly able to kill Thanos, steal the Infinity Stones. With all this power, well, he went out, straight up wiped out the universe. And as he stood there, bathing in the silence, well, he accidentally discovered the existence of the multiverse. Went about trying to destroy that too. And he was going to destroy absolutely anyone who stood in his way. If it wasn't for the Guardians of the Multiverse working together, being able to take him out, well, I don't think that anyone could have actually stopped Ultron. When the MCU started, did anyone actually think that Loki would be the most powerful character out there? I sure didn't. But he is, no doubt about that. I mean, his power is literally infinite and immeasurable. He managed to destroy the temporal loom and pull together all the timelines and universes throughout the multiverse, forged them into a creation all his own, where he now reigns supreme. He's definitely the most powerful character and villain in the MCU.